Trompe-l'oeil. Trompe-l'oeil is French for eye deceiver. It is an art historical tradition intended to fool the eye into thinking something is really there, according to Tate's definition. For example, we can take a look at this mural in Rome, Italy. It was painted on the roof of the church around 1685. So when you look up, it creates an illusion that the sky is extending, the space is limited. So this is what trompe-l'oeil usually do, and you can either say it covers up the reality, or this is a new layer of reality. But it is also changing according to time, and today printed trompe-l'oeil is no longer art-centered and become a practical tool, an installation in the urban landscape that can be mastered by ordinary people. So in some cases, the medium has changed from painting to printing, and sometimes we don't consider this is art, but at the same time, trompe-l'oeil is still a method in making contemporary art, and that's what we are going to talk about today. A lot of changing is happening, so it requires an update on its vocabulary. So let's dissect this phrase. Urban. Urban meaning that I will be focusing on the sides of industrial, commercial, and capital. Visual, meaning that it is still a visual language and embedded in visual culture, and it is either a response or a participation in a world filled with images. And finally, tricks, meaning that this method has a funny side, makes us question the reality. There will be three sections on today's presentation. First, we will take a look at those real-life examples of printed trompe-l'oeil. I collect the images once I see them, and there are more than 200 cases in my folder. I will present you the most interesting ones. And second, I will briefly talk about the history of trompe-l'oeil and some theory about reality. And finally, we will look at some examples how this method is evolved in contemporary art. In the first section, you will see printed images representing trees, grass, nature, human figures, and food. And they are installed either around the construction site or on the street. Sometimes they represent what was absent, and sometimes people made them just for fun. This is how I started to research on this topic and collect photos. It was 2017. I was on a field trip with my undergraduate classmates, and this installation shocked me. It was a company that cut and sell marbles. They used to print a picture of a forest that is about 80 meters wide and 10 meters high in front of its processing plant to cover up the working scene. I found the exact same image on it from the internet. This is what I like to do, to dig for the truth. This is how it looks in Google Maps. So trompe-l'oeil is never an independent object. It requires the environment to work with it. More examples are representing grass, trees, natures. This one's painted and not printed. And this is a fake door. It's so real, right? But when you look at the bottom, the color is starting to fade. Also a fake door in the front of Glasgow School of Art. The Mackintosh building was ruined in a fire, and when they reconstruct, they use black and white photos on the gate. Some of them just replace the real bricks. More bricks. And this photo was shot during pandemic in Taiwan. I believe they are cheerleaders of some sport games. Graduation ceremony. This photo was taken in Japan. They display a student's face on a robot. So sometimes we use pictures to create a presence. Gatekeeper. The New York JFK Airport. More human figures. food, food. Yeah, a type of new fridge in the US. Maybe this is prank. Yeah. So these tricks are known as a cost-effective way of representing absent objects, serving as methods of concealment, embellishment, and decoration. Such methods were originally from painting and mural, but have become common in urban life. Let's talk a little bit about art history about trompe l'oeil. There is an old story about Zeus created grapes that were so realistic, and the birds saw the images and attempted to eat them. Shortly after, he went to see Bahasia's painting and asked if the curtain can be lifted so he could look at the painting. And he discovered that the curtain itself was the painting. This is commonly known as the beginning story of trompe l'oeil. And we can see a lot of examples, including the church one I showed you at the beginning. The technique of illusion making was widely used in Renaissance. This one is also from Rome, Italy. The sculpture and the bushes were painted in the 17th century to enhance the space or the perspective of the gallery. And about its definition, it was coined no earlier than 1800 by a French person named Boyer. And I'd like to mention this article by Ebert Schipperha, trompe l'oeil, the underestimated trick. At the beginning, he questioned that it might be unnecessary to classify trompe l'oeil because it is just a skill that makes things look realistic. But later he found out that trompe l'oeil is different from perspective painting. Trompe l'oeil isn't about fooling the viewer for long. It is more about creating a brief moment of surprise and making people aware of how they perceive things. That's why viewers' interaction is the key. Without it, the illusion loses its purpose. And he argues that trompe l'oeil pushes beyond the frame, directly engaging with the viewer's space and ultimately changing the classical idea of a painting is a window into another world. And in the final part of his article, he explores the evolution of art from imitating reality to reality itself as art. Because by the 20th century, artists began to incorporating real objects directly into their works. This shift blurs the boundary between representation and reality. And you might also often read about a point of view that street art and Banksy is the latest stage of trompe l'oeil, but I would like to argue with that. In the final section, you will see a lot of other words by other artists that visual tricks or illusion is the method making installation, photography, and in media art. And let's talk a little bit about boundary art. Look at the term of simulacrum and simulation. A simulacrum is a copy of something that no longer has an original. A simulation is the process through which reality is replaced by its representations. So we can consider a printed trompe l'oeil is a new reality, and this thinking will continue to influence some of the work that we are about to see. These pictures are taken by Baudrillard himself in France, 1990s. And I really enjoy referencing an article by Uji-Keiwa, Mimicry and Legendary Psychasthenia in 1984. Some people argue that biological studies has nothing to do with art or visual culture, but I find many similarities. Keiwa's essay challenges the idea that mimicry is purely biological. Mimicry is also psychological, existential, and deeply connected to the way organisms, including human beings, interact with their environment. For example, he suggests that mimicry is not just about survival, but a compulsion to become part of the environment. As you can see, printed picture works with its environment, and we have been talking about senses and interactions in Ebert Shifahar's article. And this person, Jimenez, further confirmed that the existence of printed trompe l'oeil is a pragmatic approach or psychological needs from the perspective of anthropological study. And there is also an old story about drawing a cake to satisfy hunger that echoes with it. No one is fooled or eating the drawing cake. So in the final section, let's take a look at how trompe l'oeil is used as a method in art making today. This is a list of artists I've been following, and as you can see, they make performance, installations, photography, and new media art. Trompe l'oeil is no longer limited in the form of painting. For example, Bartol, an American-based artist, printed a perfect beach picture as a large backdrop and put it back on the actual beach for tourists to make photos in front of it. Another piece of his work, a cube from the game world. This curtain was displayed on Hong Kong Art Basel in 2014 by Latifa. Daniel's work. He is also a graphic designer, photographer, printmaker. His work always have a sense of humor. Amanda's sculpture. She leaves the back of the sculpture open for a purpose, and this is one of the series. Amanda's photography. She takes photos, print photos, and take photos again. I really enjoy these many layers of transactions. Photo installation by other artists. Na Puqi, a Chinese artist. And this is a performance by He Liping. It has nothing to do with printed pictures, but it has the same spirit, the spirit of pretending. This one is like using the old type of FaceTime technology. So these two people were at two different places, and for this way they can interact at the same time. This one is piecing several 3D scanning models together by Li Weiyi, and they had a poster of a Buddha. And this guy is famous on Instagram. Don't know if you still remember that when AirPods was first released, people made fun of it, and that's because they are so easy to get lost. And the artist took this chance, making stickers, or put them on the ground and trick people. This is what I did in 2020, fixing the neighborhood, using paper. And this is a reversal of the previous image. More of my work. So we can conclude that there's several points that how trompe l'oeil is influencing contemporary art. It is definitely something more than street art and Banksy. Thank you.